What's up, guys? Welcome back to more Reddit stories about entitled people, crazy people, and everything in between. So let's get right into it. Interviewer accuses me of parking in the handicap spot and tells me to prove it. A few years ago, I was in school and job hunting. I got an interview at a company for office work, filing, answering phones, setting appointments, etc. I was looking forward to getting an office job instead of retail or fast food. The building had big window walls that overlooked the parking lot, so you could see cars pulling in and parking. I pull into the lot and park my car. I get out and walk into the office. Now, as I'm walking in, I note that there is a car parked in the handicap space in the front of the office. This car looks just like mine, I should note. So I walk in and I'm greeted by the manager, who kind of gives me a scowling look. It made me uneasy a little as we walk back to his office. We sit down and he is asking me questions in a bit of a clipped tone. He seems annoyed by my answers and I don't understand what's going on at this point. Finally, he says, "Do you always park in the handicap spaces?" I'm confused, so I ask him what he means. He goes on a rant about how entitled I am for parking in the handicap spot at a potential place of employment, and I'm just getting more lost. I ask him what is going on because I didn't park in the handicap spot, I am parked in the lot. He argues with me and says he watched my car pull in and saw me park there. I again told him that I didn't park in a handicap spot, but the car that I walked by in that spot looked similar to my car. He says that he knows that he saw me park and get out of the car. At this point, I'm over the whole interview. I knew this would be a clusterfuck of a place to work for if this is the guy managing it. Then he goes a step further and says, "Prove it." I grab my purse and get my keys out. I don't even bother waiting for him and just leave the office. He's jogging after me and hurried outside to stand and wait. His face went from smug arrogance to Pikachu real quick as I walked past the car in the handicap spot. He asked me where I was going as I walked over to my car. Then I turned around and made eye contact as I hit the button on my keys to unlock it and got in. He was starting to walk over to me, calling out that he was sorry about the misunderstanding, but I just put the car in reverse and left. I didn't even make eye contact with him as I drove away. Edit to add, this was my second interview, so the manager knows what I and my car look like. I don't know why he said he saw me. I'm assuming it was a lie to get me to admit I did it. Entitled customer goes nuts because we won't sell her my purse. So for the last dozen years or so, I have been carrying this gorgeous vintage designer bag I found online. I think I bought it in 2010. I love it and I will carry it until it falls apart. I get a ton of compliments on it, and it also caused this one crazy story. I spent 3 years working in an Ivy League college town upscale clothing boutique that catered to wealthy college students and their parents and tourists. We didn't sell anything like this bag, but I suppose I can see where it would have fit in with the things we did sell. One afternoon, I was getting ready to leave for my lunch break, and I had put this vintage bag on the counter while I was putting my coat on. An expensively dressed woman who had just walked up to the counter picked up my bag and asked my coworker who was at the register how much it was. I walked over and politely took it from her and said it was my personal bag and it wasn't for sale. She literally snatched it out of my hands and went off on both of us. The bag was sitting on the counter. It had to be for sale. It was obviously much too fancy and expensive a bag for a retail loser to own. And oh, didn't we just wish we were Ivy League students like her precious babies? Which was actually funny because I didn't work there because I needed the money. I worked there as a favor to the owner who was a friend of the family, basically as a fill-in for one of her full-time employees who had a chronic illness and called in sick a lot. It allowed her to keep the worker rather than letting her go for someone more reliable. This entitled woman probably really would have flipped if I had told her that my husband was a professor at our beloved Ivy League school, and I could easily afford that bag, thank you very much. So yada yada, this woman just kept screaming at us. She wanted that bag so badly. She absolutely refused to believe it belonged to me. Started screaming about wanting to see the manager or the owner, and didn't believe my coworker when she informed the woman that she was the store manager. We finally told her if she didn't give back my bag and leave the store, we were going to call the police. She refused, so police were called. Police get there. Entitled woman gets even worse and doubles down on her particular form of insanity. She tells them that it's her bag and she'd brought it in with her, and that we were trying to steal it from her. The cop took the bag away from her and opened it up, and dumped all the contents on the counter. My cell phone, which of course I knew the passcode to and she didn't. Prescription medication bottles in my name. My checkbook, and everything else I carried on a daily basis. How she had failed to recognize just from the weight of the bag that it had stuff in it, I don't know. You could see the fear creeping into her face as the cop came up with one item after another that proved the bag was mine. When he got to my wallet and pulled out what was clearly my license, the woman jerked away from the second cop who had a hand on her arm and pretty much ran out of the store. I kind of wish they had gone after her, but apparently they didn't think the situation warranted it because they just asked us if we considered it worth pursuing her and pressing charges. Sadly, in that moment, we didn't want to be bothered. We just wanted it to be over so we could go on with our day. I wish now that we had. She needed to be taught a lesson or be forced to get mental help. She wasn't the only crazy entitled customer we ever got, but she was one of the most memorable. Entitled dad called the police on me for sitting in a pool. This just happened today and I'm so mad. I, a 28-year-old male, autistic, just wanted to spend some time relaxing in our local swimming pool. I had black goggles and liked to swim underwater. I also like to simply rest against the poolside and chill. Also, I was the only adult male without any children in this pool, which is clearly for everyone to use, shallow at one end and deep at the other, etc. I'm just resting by the poolside when a manager, not even a lifeguard, a bloody manager comes over to me and tells me my presence and behavior is making someone uncomfortable. He explained that someone had complained that me diving underwater and simply sitting by the side of the pool was apparently unacceptable, because I was apparently doing this to peep on children. He told me this in a non-accusatory tone and seemed to sound as confused as me about this. At first I thought I was upsetting some over-worried parent, and being a parent myself, I felt horrible. I explained that I was just relaxing by the poolside, offered to take off my goggles to put them at ease, and even wanted to apologize to this person. The manager seemed to accept this and presumably went back to the parent to let them know I was sorry for upsetting them. About 10 minutes passed and the manager was back, telling me the police had arrived. I was shocked and asked if it was about me. The manager said yes and that they wanted to talk to me. This is when I met the entitled dad for the first time. Big guy, maybe early to mid-30s and pretty buff looking. This is the only time he spoke to me and all he said was, "You better go quietly or I'll tell everyone you're a pedophile." He walked away before I could reply and the manager led me out the pool. I felt tempted to flip this Kevin the Bird as I walked by, but I kept my cool and just left. I get to the locker rooms and 2 police women were waiting. Fortunately for me, they were really nice and friendly with me the whole time. After grabbing a towel, they started asking me what happened and what I was doing. I was honest and told them I was just trying to relax and had no idea I was upsetting this person just by being there. I even told them I was autistic, which led to one of the officers telling me they had a family member who was also autistic. They then asked me for my details to run me through their database. While that went on, the entitled dad walked by, and one of the officers asked to talk with him. He agreed and they went elsewhere. I got changed back into my clothes, and as I was coming out of the changing room, the entitled dad was in my way with his back to me. I couldn't quite hear what he was saying over the people in the room, but I did hear him rather loudly order his kids to stay put while he went to get changed. He walked off without seeing me, and I left the locker room. The police stayed with me in the lobby until their database came back. Of course, it came back that I had no history of crime, and the gym staff had told the officers I had no history of disturbing other people, and I was free to go. However, the entitled dad was hanging around near the back of the lobby, watching me. The police saw this too and offered to give me a ride home since I'd walked to the gym. I accepted since I was pretty shell-shocked by the whole ordeal and worried this guy would try something on my way home. In all, this was a really scary experience, and I'm still shaking typing this. I'm just glad the manager and the police were professional enough to let me speak my piece. I should mention there were other parents in the pool who didn't care about my presence. Another dad and his kids were playing right next to me and he didn't care. Edit, let me give you a small update. I went back to the gym today to see if the same manager was on duty. Thankfully he was, and he took me aside to explain his perspective on things. I'll call him Mike. Apparently, this Kevin seemed to be trouble from the start, being very irate with Mike as well as other staff members. The only reason it wasn't the lifeguards dealing with him was because they were scared of him. being 17 to 18-year-olds, and this guy was an early 30s looking buff man. Even Mike, who was roughly the same age as Kevin, was concerned with his behavior, thinking if he got near me that we'd end up throwing hands. When Mike first told him that I had offered to leave my goggles off so I wouldn't dive underwater, that apparently wasn't good enough. Then when the police arrived, Mike had actually just told them he was concerned for my safety. Nothing about Kevin's accusation of me. No wonder they were so nice. I then asked Mike if at any point he thought I really was a threat to the kids. He laughed and said no, saying that when I mentioned I had kids of my own, the fact that I had offered to apologize and attempt to de-escalate things, he could tell I wasn't dangerous. He was thinking more about me being safe than whether or not I was a threat. The police seemed to think that way too. At one point after I left, the Kevin was getting mouthy again and a receptionist chewed him out for his actions. Wish I could have seen that. But yeah, everything is cool now, and everybody knows what a twat this guy is, so I don't think I'm in any further trouble anymore. Oh, and to answer why I left, I was given the choice whether to go or not. No one told me to leave. I was planning on leaving a few minutes before this encounter anyway, so I didn't mind too much. It was only when the police officer caught the Kevin staring at me that they offered to give me a ride. Use our driveway for a shortcut? No more shortcut. We have a large easement next to our house. It's actually a lovely spot with a view over a creek and up a small valley to wooded hills. Heaps of birds and wildlife. No sea of housing like behind us. It also leads to a cul-de-sac of a dead-end road, which was fenced off, until someone decided one afternoon to barrel their 4x4 right through it. Even before this, in-car or phone navigation has taken people up the dead-end street and tried to send them over the non-existent road between us and the cul-de-sac, as it is significantly shorter than the normal way around. Since the fence has been rammed down, people have been using it as a shortcut, and probably because GPS tells them to go that way. The more they go that way, the more GPS picks up on the route. People were dropping off or mounting the gutter to get on and off the grass to the road, which is okay. There was such a variety of vehicles from pizza delivery to large trucks, tradesmen and lost visitors that we couldn't just say, hey, please don't, it's not a road. It had gotten to the point where there was a dusty track. Then they started cutting across our front lawn to use our personal driveway and we had enough. So we called council, by chance getting hold of someone we know, and 3 days later there were 2 giant rocks blocking the way, still allowing the walkers, kids, and bike riders passage, but no more cars and trucks. And that is all for today. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to hit that like button. I'd really appreciate it. And also, if you're new here and haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button as well. Have an awesome day, everyone. Stay beautiful, and I'll see you next time.